I want to welcome everybody to Iowa Postgame with Coach Gary Close as we recap the Iowa men and their first Big Ten victory of the season. This show is brought to you by Iowa Smokehouse with their beef jerky, their meat sticks, their many snacking products that are great for basketball or football or whatever sport you're enjoying game day. Lots of new seasons starting, including the golf season, tennis season, etc. It's good for any and every day. Visit iowasmokehouse.com and see how tasting is believing. Use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off your order and spend $50. You'll get free shipping right to your doorstep. Why go out in the cold when you can get it delivered to you? iowasmokehouse.com. Use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off your order. Also want to thank Iowa Floor Covering and their Tough Core Click Together 4.5 millimeter waterproof vinyl flooring. It's available at iowafloorcovering.com/DIY. But whatever flooring needs you have, give Tyler, Ryan, and the guys who are Hawkeye fans, give them a call at 515-379-7000 or visit them in person down in Bondurant. Visit iowafloorcovering.com. We appreciate Iowa Floor Covering be a part of the platform here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. We would like to welcome none other than Coach Gary Close to the broadcast. Gary, welcome. It's a Saturday afternoon. It's good to see your face on the weekend.
Yeah, good to be here. Thanks.
Good to be talking about a win. I just was thinking as I was writing up the stats here before we got started, I thought, boy, it just feels good to be recapping an Iowa win. Not that Iowa hasn't won games, but a significant game, a Big Ten game. It's been a challenge so far. Iowa coming into the season at 0-3, and as we talked about on Tuesday, there was some pressure heading into today. I think there's pressure heading into next week as well, given the opponents on the schedule. Just talk about what you saw from Iowa quick out of the gates tonight.
Yeah, I thought they showed a lot of energy. I think they were ready to play, and I think they realized that this was a big game, a home game. That they had to hold serve on their home court and needed to get their first win, and pretty much controlled the game from start to finish. There were a few little runs by Rutgers, but I don't know if I ever felt like they were really in trouble. Did some nice things and got a good win. So hopefully that'll give them some confidence as they head down. The rest of these games coming up.
You're kind of a Big Ten junkie, given the fact that you've coached at a couple different Big Ten programs. You love the sport like we all do. What do you know about Rutgers? And I mean, this team's now 0-3 as well. Is this the team that finishes middle of the Big Ten, or are they a bottom feeder?
I haven't seen him play a lot. I think that's might have been the first time I've really seen him for an extended period of time. And I don't think they're one of the better teams in the league. My guess is they would be towards the bottom. They play hard. I was surprised to see that they're one of the top defensive teams, although I think that might be more indicative of the schedule that they played. But they did, they didn't go away. They battled, and they'll be tougher to beat at their place. That's a tough place to play. So, but just a guess, I would say they're going to be more towards the bottom than in the middle.
I've made this comment, I know, in the past. I'll say it again. I got a lot of respect for Steve Pikiell. I think Fran McCaffery has a lot of respect for Steve Pikiell, and he does coach a tough, defensive-minded brand of basketball. What challenges? Iowa put up 86 on this team, but you talked about those defensive numbers. Maybe some of that's due to the schedule, but what do they do defensively that makes it hard on a team that, like Iowa, that likes to get out in the full court?
Yeah, well, they're athletic. They apply some pressure. They turn you over a little bit from the little bit that I saw, and they play hard. His teams have always played hard, and that makes them a tough out. That if you're not ready to play, then they can get you. So I'll be curious to see how they do defensively through the rest of the league games, where it's obviously more difficult. But they do some things that can turn you over, and that can trigger their fast break. I thought for the most part, Iowa did a pretty good job of handling the ball. They had a few turnovers, but most of them were the variety that that they couldn't score off of. They were more dead ball turnovers, or not live ball turnovers. So I thought Iowa played well.
I remember last year when Iowa played Rutgers, and I think Rutgers maybe a little bit better last year. They lost some to the portal this year. But Mawot Mag was a significant injury. He was back today, kind of got them back in the game there at the end of the first half with a couple late threes. I think the one thing, and we can talk about this in just a second, that Fran, I'm guessing it was not a real happy post-game locker room. Now, maybe he's going to be able to relish the moment, but Fran nearly had to take a weekend trip to the optometrist to get a replacement pair of bifocals because he was not happy with execution down the stretch there.
I think he saw Gary Dolphin dozing off over there, and he wanted to wake him up a little bit. And the game wasn't over yet, so I thought the glasses looked okay. They might have been a hair crooked, but he'll get those fixed.
What was going on there at the end? That's.
I think he realizes, and rightfully so, that this is a team that has got to concentrate. They're not good enough to take possessions off. It didn't hurt them in this game, but it will hurt them. For example, in the Wisconsin game, they just had too many dumb plays that if you're going to beat good teams, you can't do. And so I think he's making a point that they got to keep their concentration. They got to keep improving. They got to keep doing the little things better, or they're not going to get where they want to go. And so I get it. I understand where he's coming from.
Taking a look at some of the numbers, I'll throw these up on the bottom ticker for everybody. Some stats from today. Patrick McCaffery did not play due to an illness. Sounded like it was a late decision. I'm just curious. We don't know the illness, so if it was COVID or something related to his thyroid. Of course, he's going to be constantly battling those, unfortunately, being a cancer survivor. Are you surprised he was there if he's dealing with an illness?
Was he there? I didn't. He was on the bench.
He
was on the bench. Yeah. Yeah, I guess.
Okay. So maybe it was something related to the thyroid, or, he's obviously got a lot of health challenges in front of him still, but did not play today. And Iowa filled in his role nicely. Peyton Sandfort had a well-rounded game with 24 points and 8 rebounds, as you see on the bottom ticker there. Ben Krikke added 19 and 10. That's that stat's a little bit crooked. Let's get that corrected. But 19 and 10 for Ben Krikke, and Tony Perkins with 15 points on the day to go along with 15 from Owen Freeman. Pretty balanced. And one thing I would say, Gary, is as I look at the box score and just watching this team play, the other night I mentioned Josh Dix as being a key cog, in my opinion, moving forward, because they need someone who can consistently not only make threes. I mean, obviously Peyton's going to give you what he gives you from three. You know, you've got guys who can make shots from outside, like a Tony Perkins, even a Ben Krikke, Brock Harding. But I just think Josh Dix is the most natural shooter, maybe with the exception being Peyton. And Price is, I think, a very talented kid, but he's young. We haven't seen his maturation come of yet. Josh Dix gave him some good minutes there in the first half, especially. And I just think he and Dasonte Bowen are just incredibly important. You talk about guard play in March, something that Iowa hasn't always had. How important are those two guys? Am I overestimating the importance of those two guys making an impact?
No, I mean, guard play is really important, especially as you say going into March. I think you look at the good teams; they usually got real good guard play. You know, they take care of the ball, they can make some shots, they can get the offense set up, they can defend. And with the exception of Perkins, it's wide open. And so, you know, obviously, as those guys improve, it's going to help their cause. And I like both of them. They're a work in progress, and it'll just how quickly can they keep improving is going to be important.
I just think Dasonte Bowen is better than he's showing. I think his upside is a lot better. I do have a specific question as it relates to something I've observed with Dasonte Bowen over the last couple of weeks. It seems like he's pretty good at getting in the lane, at beating a guy off the dribble, and it's not like he's afraid of contact. He oftentimes will get to the basket, kind of hang in the air and try to draw contact. I have noticed that a lot of times he loses that battle. He's not getting foul calls. Defenders are maintaining verticality. What would be your advice to Dasonte? I don't know if you've noticed the same thing.
Yeah, and he's not the only one, but he's certainly one of them. He's got to learn how to score off 2 feet. When you're playing real good teams, you're just not going to get many unmolested layups at the basket. It's not going to happen. So your ability to come to a jump stop, maybe shot fake, he can kick it out, maybe get somebody off his feet. He takes a lot of running, floating shots off of 1 foot that are lower percentage shots. He'll make some, but if you can't get to the rim and you don't have a wide open floater that's not as contested as some of the shots he's taken, then you got to score off 2 feet, and you either got to kick it, try to draw a foul, but it's almost like he's shooting at a moving basket, and so his percentages drop accordingly. So I think if you can learn how to do that, same thing with Krikke. He's got to learn how to get a right hand and score off of 2 feet as well. When he gets to his left, he's good, but people are going to take that away in this league. They'll be too well scouted, and so his ability to come to a jump stop and pump fake and use his right hand as well as his left is going to be important. They all need work on finishing inside and getting to the free throw line. And when you go in there and shoot rushed, floating, quick shots, referees usually don't bail you out unless it's just an obvious foul.
As I continue to think about the makeup of this roster, I continue to think that I think roles are fairly, I don't want to say carved out, but to me, Tony Perkins is the most complete player on this team. I'm not saying he's always consistent, but I think you can count on him to give you energy. He's going to give you boards. He's going to give you he finishes pretty well. I think he probably finishes better than anybody else, right?
I agree. Yep.
And he gets to the line. But here's the difference to what you just said. And this is the first time you and I have had this conversation specifically, Gary. Tony, especially last year, showed his willingness to pull up and make shots off 2 feet and make floaters in the lane and mid-range shots. So is that a coincidence that he finishes better around the rim since he's shown his ability to make in mid-range?
Yeah, no, I think it helps. It looks like it's something that is easy to do. It's not. The tendency is to rush and shoot quick, and you almost got to slow down and take your time and let the defense react to your fakes or whatever. And I think the first thing you teach people trying to score in the post is to slow down a little bit and take your time and get a good base and shot fake and things like that. And young players, it takes a while for them to figure that out, because in high school, they just physically dominated. They didn't have to worry about that. Now they're not doing that. They got people that are longer and more athletic and stronger. And now it comes down to more of a fundamental situation.
Dean in the chat says defense needs to get better, cannot give up 77 to a team that averages 68. I mean, I know that's kind of a singular stat to look at. I didn't think they were bad defensively. I'm with you. I don't think this Rutgers team is very good, but Iowa does. There is something to be said for when you play up tempo, you're going to give up more points. Like, I don't think the points per game in this instance is the perfect. I mean, I thought Iowa played decently well defensively, I guess is what I'm saying. How would you rate the defensive performance?
I thought they were okay. Yeah, I thought they were okay. I think Rutgers is limited offensively, especially from the perimeter. They missed a lot of wide open shots that I think other teams are not going to miss. But I thought they worked hard, and they just got to continue to develop camaraderie and cohesiveness on the defensive end. But they showed flashes, but my guess is probably more indicative of Rutgers than it was of Iowa in terms of their points. This is a team I think is going to struggle to score.
Well, Lansky, thank you for the super chat. Cutting to the basket pays in this era of 3-point shots. Love it, love it, love it. Freedom for Freeman. How important is he to this offense right now with his ability to finish at the rim?
He's good, and he bounced back from a half where he got 2 fouls and didn't play very much. He plays hard. He's active. He's got good hands. He finishes pretty well for the most part around the basket. So I think the sky's the limit for him. I think he's just going to get better and better. I think he's the leader for the Big Ten freshman year. Now we got a long way to go, and he's got to stay healthy, but he's a nice piece to build around.
Our RTI Threads player of the game, Peyton Sandfort, 24 points on 5 of 8 from outside, 8 rebounds, 3 assists. If you could get this from him every night in Big Ten play, they got a chance to beat a lot of teams.
Yeah, I like the rebounding. I like the fact that he scored inside. He had a couple drive moves. He had a little post up, and if he can add, more areas where he can score and obviously getting inside will get him to the free throw line more. It's just going to make him a more effective 3-point shooter instead of being so one-dimensional. So he played hard. He showed great leadership. The 8 rebounds is strong. He played really well.
With Patrick McCaffery being out, he has been a starter since day one. Did you see anything different, like as far as how the offense and the defense operated without him on the floor, without him in the starting lineup? Did you feel like that affected how Iowa played in any way other than just the production?
Yeah, I don't think so. Maybe other people got to step up because that's not there. But I didn't see anything that jumped out at me at either end as far as that goes.
And talk about Tony Perkins. I personally think he's probably their most complete player. Then you look at Ben Krikke. You're going to get double figures out of him pretty much every night, somehow, some way. And talk about Owen Freeman. He might be their highest upside player. But he's also turned into a pretty consistent. We're talking some good sample size against Power 5 teams now, Gary, where he's consistently in double figures.
Yeah.
So, if you would have told me, hey, Kricke's going to be averaging whatever he's averaging, plus you get Owen Freeman, I'd be saying the same thing preseason. Hey, what's the guard play looking like? And I don't feel like they're far off. I don't. Maybe I'm just looking at this through rosy-colored glasses, Gary, but I just feel like if those two guards can step up and start making shots, it's going to open up everything because both those guys know how to penetrate. I think Dix is a natural shooter. DeSante needs to find confidence. I don't think DeSante's got a lot of confidence in his jump shot in general. And, again, I thought they both played relatively well in the first half. They finished the day today. Dix gets 7 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. So not a terrible line. DeSante, though, 4 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 turnovers. You got to get better production out of your starting point guard.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how many minutes Dix played, but I thought he was pretty solid. I think those numbers are pretty good. I'm guessing he didn't play. He played 25 minutes, maybe
26 minutes. Yep.
Yeah. So those are okay. I don't know if they need him to score a lot of points. If he can just be a threat and take care of the ball, and then as he gains more and more confidence, then maybe more and more scoring will come. But For his first start of the year, I think it was a solid performance.
And DeSante played just 18 minutes in the game. So I don't mean to try to read into recruiting rankings. We've seen him at Iowa, but he was a fairly highly touted kid. I mean, he was right up there with Luka Garza as far as, I know that recruiting rankings don't always mean anything, but he was highly regarded. So he's got upside, and I do like how he gets into the lane better than a lot of guards of the past. And I think he's more offensive minded than Tony Perkins naturally, but I think just Tony's just got the confidence right now. And when will that click for DeSante? How do you work with a guy like that who appears to not have confidence in his jump shot? Is it just repetitive shooting, getting shots up?
Yeah, and that's where practice is important. I think we don't talk about that enough. That's where it starts. You have good practices, you shoot the ball well. That'll build your confidence, and obviously you got to do it in the game as well. But I think he's looking to continue to improve. It looks to me like he's got to let the game come to him a little bit. He kind of forces the issue a little bit, but he's definitely got talent. He's got a lot of physical capabilities that obviously he can't teach. So he's still young. He's young in a lot of ways. So hopefully he'll keep improving.
Ben says, I'm sad to say, but wouldn't be surprised if something comes out about needing a mental break for Patrick. Has not looked into it at all. Again, we're just speculating on that. I hope not. I hope that Patrick, again, we don't know what the illness is specifically today. But I agree. There have been times, Gary, where he hasn't looked real engaged. And maybe that's just a result of he's not feeling great physically and his team's not playing very well. And, he's kind of the leader, supposed to be the leader. He's a senior and, I get it. But boy, it'd be great if you could get production from him.
Man, for sure.
We expected, but we're not getting that right now.
Yeah, that's one of the more experienced players. And he's kind of he's not a real vocal person to begin with. Hopefully it's just a temporary thing. And because I think if you talk to one player, I know you talk to guards, I think he is a key. I think if he can play to his capability, that would be a huge upside because he could score 15 points a game, 12, 15 points a game and be a real effective player that for the most part he hasn't done yet this year.
Esther, I am doing well. Thank you for asking in the chat here. Appreciate the kindness and for being here and supporting the show. Tony brings up Seton Hall. So, this is interesting because I keep telling you, you and I both agree on this, that Iowa's probably going to have to go, almost certainly going to have to go over 500 in Big Ten play to have a chance on Selection Sunday. But if Seton Hall could turn into a real quality win, and they've knocked off UConn now and knocked off Marquette today, then there's a huge plus on a neutral court, that neutral site win. Now, Seton Hall's been a little bit erratic. They lost to Rutgers earlier this year, lost by 20 like a week ago to Xavier on the road. Xavier's been iffy this year.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's a road game in the Big East. It's not going to be a bad loss. So just your thoughts on the Pirates winning a couple against Big Ten.
Those are two good teams they beat. Those are top 10 teams, maybe top 5 teams. So, yeah, that definitely helps.
All right, let's go to our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. Before we do that, we've got James here waiting to chat. Want to thank RTI Threads. And yes, I'm wearing the Cooper DeJean apparel. Get your apparel at cd3lacesup.com. That young man's going to be playing on Sundays next year. Also, Aaron Graves, Carson Shire, Aiden Hall, Zach Lutmer, all a part of the RTI Threads family. Check out their merch lines at www.rtithreads.com. That's rtithreads.com. Let's go to our Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. James, welcome.
I also beat Providence the other day too, and Providence was like top 25 as well, and it was at Providence. So
top 25. Okay.
Yeah, when they beat them, at least they were top 25. But
yeah, I don't know where is Seton Hall right now in the Big East. Do we know? Big East.
I don't know, but I just know they're only Providence
must be near the top
games. Seton Hall's the only team that beat them at home in a conference game in the last how many years?
You're right. Providence was 23rd ranked team in the country. Yeah. Seton Hall also beat Mizzou. And let's see, lost to Baylor, lost to Iowa, lost to USC. Those are not bad losses. And that's about it. They basically took care of business non-conference. They're 3-1 in the Big East right now, 10-5 overall. So they're They're behind Villanova and UConn, who they beat, and tied in the loss column with Providence, who they also beat.
Yeah, and it was good to see the way I think we reacted today. Obviously, we pulled out to that big lead, and the one thing I think you don't want more is like just to see us kind of coast. Sometimes when you get a big lead, especially early, you didn't coast a little bit, but like I feel like the effort was there the whole time. They didn't make a little bit of mistakes late in the game, but I felt like the effort was there for most of the game. I think that's most important too, for sure. And I feel like Dix did a good job filling in for McCaffery. I didn't really see much change or notice much change really from what was different.
I listened to a little bit of the broadcast from Gary Dolphin and Bobby Hansen. They were very complimentary of what they saw from Josh Dix on the defensive end as well, Gary. He's, probably one of their better defenders when he's giving max effort. So, he's going to be, like I say, I mean, even if Patrick comes back in the next game, maybe I don't know if you want to mix the lineup up, if that would do more harm than good, Gary, but we've talked about, even when Patrick's been healthy, given some of his struggles, maybe you bring him off the bench. Is there a stake to that claim, especially with Dix's ability to defend?
Possibly. I think usually you don't lose your starting position because of illness.
Sure.
But we'll have to wait and see if he does come back and what kind of shape he's in. But I think Dix will be an important player, the rest of the year for sure.
One thing that's about Bowen too, and one thing I think he got better at too, I think sometimes he tries to take on too big of a matchup. What I mean by that is he'll try to go out like the big guys, and that's why he doesn't really get a lot of calls sometimes, because he just like falls because they're bigger than him, so he's just gonna fall, and it looks worse than what it really is, if that makes sense. Like they're walling straight up, and he gets hit by them, but it looks worse than what it is because they're just bigger than him.
Yeah, Sean Moore likes to bring up verticality all the time, and I think he's right. Yeah. But it seems like every time he brings up, what great verticality there, it's always on a DeSante Bowen drive. So that tells me maybe DeSante's not attacking as well.
A couple of times I noticed
the scouting report will tell you, hey, just wall him up and don't try to block his shot, and he has a hard time finishing. And that's
right.
That's the nature of the Big Ten. Teams are going to be well scouted. And we talked about Krikke with a left hand. When he was forced to his right hand, he had a very awkward shot that got blocked, and the league is well scouted. So you gotta pick up on those.
That is one thing I feel like they did well kind of with us too. And I think Owen kind of exposed them with that a little bit, because they did wall up well, but I feel like Owen moves a little better than Krikke in a retrospect of like where he wants to get to, he can get to, because he has more than, he uses both hands a little bit better than I think Krikke does right now. Krikke's more just right dominant, if that makes sense. They know which way he wants to go. So they kind of just stop Krikke from going that one way. Mm-hmm. But I feel like it's what you wanted to see, especially Tony. I felt like Tony played really well the last two games, even though we lost against Wisconsin. I feel like he was the best player there. He showed the most effort, showed the most intensity. And I feel he did that today, and that kind of fed. Like Owen kind of fell in trouble when he came in the second half. He looked really good, though. I felt like he looked really good in the second half.
Yeah, he does a pretty good job of staying out of foul trouble. For a freshman, sometimes that's a problem, especially as a freshman big, Gary. Garza had problems as a young guy staying out of foul trouble.
They'll go after him. They'll try to. That's one of the things I guarantee you on every scouting report. Let's try to get that kid in foul trouble.
But here's the thing, Gary. Talk a little bit more about that, because he is a guy who's aggressive defensively. And I know you've made the comment on this show that you think at times shot blocking is overrated because guys end up going up, and then the offensive player regathers, goes back up and makes a shot. And I get that. Also, the risk of fouling when you lose verticality. But I guess when I bring up blocking as it relates to Freeman, he does go after a lot of shots hard, but he avoids fouling.
I feel like for a freshman, my bad, Gary, I know you're about to talk, but I feel like for a freshman, it's hard to find a freshman kind of like that in a way where they understand when to block shots and when not to block shots. I feel like he understands that better than most freshmen do. It kind of seems like it's like sometimes you can see him not go for a block, and I think that's because he knows he probably won't get to it, and maybe he might foul. I can see him kind of like sometimes not go for him, and then once he does go for him, 90% of the time he gets them, and they're mostly clean.
Yeah, I think that's a good observation.
Yeah, and he's obviously going to only improve, but I'm impressed with his discipline as a freshman, James.
Yeah, but what do we get next? Who we get next? Is it Purdue?
It's Nebraska. It's Nebraska. They get basically a week off. So, they're going to be working on whatever was going on there at the end, just kind of sloppy play.
Yeah, it was sloppy. And I feel like, too, I think they made a good observation of, like, yes, Dix got in trouble, but it seemed like nobody came back to help him either.
Yeah, I
Like
mean, you
when, not Dix. It was Harding. Harding got in trouble at the line, like right at the line. He was right, like before he got across the line. Nobody came back to help him. They all just like stood there and watched him. Like,
you couldn't have a timeout and can't get the ball in. You knew Fran was going to lose his mind, and then you get the 10-second violation, then you turn the ball over. I mean, that's just not a good stretch at all. This is a game close, won by 15, 16 points. I end up winning by 9.
You made the game closer than you needed to, for sure. And obviously, there wasn't a lot of time left, right? But let's say team starts pressing you earlier in the game. Like, let's say they start pressing you with 4 minutes and it's 15. You never know if they can cut it all the way down if you can't get those things resolved. I feel that's more of the bigger issues. Like, if they did it with more time left, you don't know what could have happened. You know, sometimes I feel like that's why you got to get fixed now. At least they did it till late in the game, so it puts you in a decent situation.
Yep. I agree, James.
Yeah.
Yep, but I'll talk to you later, and hopefully we can get Nebraska. You know, we always like beat Nebraska in anything. So
Nebraska's tough. They're
better this year than I thought they would be, and that's all credit to them. Obviously, and Hoiberg's. We all know Hoiberg's a great coach from his time at Iowa State, so we know he knows how to coach. I think it was just maybe a personnel for a while there. Once he got his guys, finally, it seemed like he's starting to click a little bit, and it's all credit to them, obviously. But
going to be a challenge, but they got some time to prep.
Yep, for sure. But I'll talk to you later.
Yep, take care.
Yeah, Nebraska, Wisconsin. I'm sure I think it was Tony in the chat says you got one eye on the Wisconsin game. I'm sure you do, Gary. That's a ball game. That's a ball game. Now, Wisconsin does have a substantial lead in the first half. It's 34-22. Badgers up on the Huskers. We can kind of preview that as we wrap this thing up. But yeah, the Big Ten's interesting. I was going through the standings in the conference, and in general, when you look through the top half of the Big Ten, there's a lot more parity, at least so far. I know we're still very early, 3 to 4 games into the conference schedule, conference season, with the exception probably being Purdue. I don't know that there's anybody established as the second best team. Maybe it's Ohio State. Illinois has been in the conversation with the Terrence Shannon situation. That makes it more difficult. Wisconsin has to be in that conversation, but they didn't play very well against Iowa the other night. What do you make of the league after Purdue?
I think it's Wisconsin right now. I think with the wins they've gotten, they beat Virginia. They've beaten some other really good teams. Their losses are against good teams for the most part. They're very experienced. They got all 5 starters back. They're not going to beat themselves. With Illinois losing Shannon, I think they're probably the second best team in the league. And actually, right now they lead the league because Purdue, of course, has 1 loss. And it looks like Michigan State's starting to figure it out a little bit. They've had some impressive wins lately, so they might be able to make a run at it. I mean, they were highly thought of coming into the year and then stumbled out of the blocks. So I'd kind of keep an eye on them. I got to see Ohio State play to be convinced. I haven't seen enough to be.
You're going to see him tonight because I'm assuming you're going to be sitting watching that game on Fox at 7.
I might. Yep.
Yeah, they play. Let's see, Indiana, Ohio State at 7. That's a big game. 2 teams that are combined 4-2 in the conference. So, that I don't know what you make of Indiana, but again, it's kind of a surprise team. Minnesota's 11-3 overall. I know they didn't play a real tough non-con, but they're 2-1 in the conference. Nebraska's certainly a surprise. Iowa's got Minnesota and Nebraska next week, and I called those 2 games kind of must wins to climb back into the race at 3-3. And I would stand by that, but those are by no means going to be easy games. Upcoming schedule for Iowa, again, they play Nebraska and Iowa City a week from yesterday, and then they play at Minnesota on that following Monday in an early tip at 5 p.m. Up at the barn. So at least they'll get probably a fairly quiet road venue.
Yeah. I don't know who Minnesota has played in the league. I know they beat Nebraska, I think, at home.
They have not played a hard schedule.
It's a little early yet to especially with some of these teams that have not played real competitive non-conference schedules, and it may have caught a break with the Big Ten schedule so far, playing games at home, playing teams that maybe aren't as good. So I'll have to see a few more results before we can really make a definitive answer.
Minnesota beat Michigan narrowly the other day in a close one. And they did beat Nebraska, as you mentioned, lost to Ohio State. But non-conference, they didn't even schedule anybody, Gary. I mean, like they had Missouri on the schedule. Their other games were Bethune-Cookman, Texas San Antonio, USC Upstate, Arkansas Pine Bluff, New Orleans. They lost by 20 to San Francisco, IUPUI, Ball State, Maine. I mean, that's one of the worst schedules I've ever seen for a Big Ten team. And I understand that there's a bit of a rebuilding process there, and they lost Jamison Battle, their best player, to Ohio State over the offseason. But they are winning most of these games and taking care of business. But I still think that's an opportunity where Iowa needs to go out and win. You got to go on the road. I mean, you dropped that one to Michigan. That was a horrendous loss. You got to steal one at some point. Excellent opportunity, perhaps to be on a 3-game winning streak to that point.
Yep. Now you got to get Nebraska first.
Absolutely. Ben says, this is an interesting question, not normally asked on the show. He says, Gary, do you want to get back into coaching, even a smaller school or a bench role for a young coach to provide some mentorship?
Well, you never say never, but I'm getting the age right now where I might have aged myself out of the running. So I'm enjoying what I'm doing. So, but that's nice of them to ask.
And there was a question here earlier, I believe. Well, actually, Esther wants to know how you're doing. I can't ignore this question. That's how are you doing, Gary?
I'm doing great. Yeah,
okay,
a good holiday, and heading down south for a week or so here in a little bit, and I enjoy this time of the year with all the basketball that's going on, and so it's good. Everything's good.
Yeah, football kind of winding down. I know your Eagles are in a pretty good position heading into playoff time, but what would your Super Bowl be right now? Eagles, Ravens?
The Eagles are hurting right now. If I had a bet, I would say the Niners and the Ravens.
Okay.
So, but like they say, anything can happen in the playoffs, but the Eagles are struggling right now, big time.
All right, folks. A couple more things. We're going to wrap this thing up. I think last I knew, Tom Kakert was going to hop on for 2 or 3 minutes, and I hope Tom didn't fall down the stairs. You know, those stairs are dangerous, Carver, Gary. Esther wants to know, by the way, where you're going. You got a secret admirer, Gary.
Yeah.
Anyways, as it relates to Tom Kakert, I expect him to jump on here for 2 or 3 minutes toward the tail end, but we are wrapping things up here. Again, Iowa with the 86-77 win over the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Inside Carver, a much-needed win. Iowa moves to 1-3 in conference play, and we can't do a show without bringing up the elephant in the room. Fran McCaffery has become the winningest coach in Iowa men's basketball history with 127 wins. And I was watching a game with a buddy of mine, and he asked me, so what's the time difference as far as comparing Dr. Tom's tenure and Fran's tenure? And they're pretty close as far as number of seasons, Gary. But tell us the difference between the eras as it relates to scheduling and number of games and all that. Can you compare the two eras?
Well, it's a little bit less. They're playing a few more games now with the 31. And of course, the Big Ten, you're now playing 20 when you used to play 18. But those are two really, really good coaches that Iowa's been fortunate to have. I think one of the neat things about Iowa is the long tenures that most of their coaches have, which is, it tells you the quality of the coach and how much they enjoy coaching in a place like Iowa. So I congratulate Fran. That's a lot of wins, and he's done a terrific job.
Did you ever rip your glasses off? You don't wear glasses, do you? You never wear glasses?
No, I've never done that, but
let's add our Iowa Smokehouse call. We got Tony on hold. Tony, appreciate you calling the Iowa Smokehouse call-in line. Have you seen Fran ever rip the glasses off? Like, I don't want to say some kind of monkey, but he just was looking like he was about to get on all fours. Not a happy Fran.
Maybe in his older age, he's realizing he needs to protect the glasses, because if you look at the replay, he took them off and he had them safe and secure while he was mad with the rest of his motions.
I don't think I've ever seen him take them off.
I don't think I've ever seen it either, I will say.
And did he throw something? I mean, we laugh, but did he throw something at the scorer's board, or he just hit
I think he just it was just like a.
I'm telling you, Gary Dolphin was dozing off. He had to wake him up.
I mean, it was about time for an afternoon nap, right? I mean, around 12:30, 1 o'clock. Yeah, so
he was well in hand, and
he's done that so many times to Bobby Hansen and Gary and Kevin over there with Learfield. It's like, I mean, they just come to expect it anymore, right? I mean,
It's
throwing
nice
water
they've got
bottles.
nice padding over there so he won't hurt his hand, because that wouldn't be fun if it was harder.
Are those score table? Are they pretty soft? The score
That's
table.
upper thing is padded, because players run into them. Yeah, that's well padded.
Anyways, Tony, go ahead. I like the hat, by the way. That's a really cool. Where'd you get the hat?
That's a classic.
That's a really cool hat.
Wherever it's a Nike hat. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's a Nike.
I
like the flex fit. It's not that snapback. It's the flex.
Yeah.
So it kind of fits.
I like
one size
turkey.
fits all, and form fits to your head. You did mention we do have a nice little stretch. Now it's going to be 9 of 10 games where we have around a 45% chance or better to win outside of the Purdue game. It was 10 of 11 before today, but a game like this could build some confidence, and it's also teaching moments. At the end of both halves, we still won, but there's a lot that can be learned from it.
Yep, I agree totally.
You're pulling up the schedule, Corey. I see. Oh, did you mute? Can you
Sorry
hear
about
him, Coach?
Tony.
Oh, sorry.
No, I got you.
No, go ahead.
I got you.
Go ahead.
So just furthering on the schedule, you brought up the next couple of games. You got Nebraska, you've got Minnesota, as we mentioned. Obviously, that game against Purdue is going to be a bear, whether it's at home or on the road. They ought to beat Michigan. I know it's in Ann Arbor. They need to. I mean, you ought to be able to go into that game with the eyes on getting back at them. And Maryland, what's Maryland done? I don't even know anything. You watch?
I think they might even be the worst team net-wise in the conference.
So I mean, like,
Maryland.
Realistically, Gary, when you look at that schedule upcoming, they're 1-3 right now. They can be 3-3 here in a little over a week, and they should be able to maintain at least 5-5 by the halfway point. Am I wrong?
I can't think that far ahead. Too many crazy things can happen.
Oh no, for sure. I'm just saying. There's what I'm meaning is I'm not predicting that. What I'm saying is the season is not all for lost. There's a nice little stretch here where, where the tournament's still not out of the question by any means.
It's a lot of teams that are very, very similar and a lot alike.
Yes.
There's not a whole, with the exception of Purdue and maybe Wisconsin. Everybody else is pretty even. So I think the key thing is keep them getting better. If you can be one of those teams that really improves and stay healthy, then maybe you can move ahead of some of those other teams that don't achieve that.
And I don't know, this is just internet rumor and reports, but it sounds like Doug McDaniel may not be playing for the second semester I think he's heard he might be academically ineligible. There's nothing that's officially came out. Michigan hasn't said anything, but there's a lot of reading of tea leaves of how he interacted after that last game against Minnesota. And
they lost to Minnesota with him.
Yeah. Yes, but that was the last game of the semester. Because it was supposedly he had bad grades and he could play through the break, and then their next game would be their first official game of the second semester, and that makes them a completely different team as well.
Well, that's like I say, they shouldn't have lost to them the first time. That's going to be the loss they're kicking themselves on later on in the year. And then I brought up those next few. I think they can get to 5-5, which would put them absolutely in the hunt. And you get at Indiana, you get Penn State, you're at Penn State, Ohio State at Penn State, and then Wisconsin again at Michigan State. I mean, it's a tough month of February when you look at the schedule as a whole, but I still think they're there for the battle. If they can win the games that they should at least have a chance at winning, a good chance at winning, and steal one that they shouldn't, I think they're going to be hovering around 500, but maybe that's wishful thinking. They got to win these next two games. I stand by. I think they have to win these next two games. So,
yeah, and it was nice to see the camaraderie pick up. There's that. What was that one play? I think it was the first half where Cricky tapped the ball ahead, and then Perkins got a fast break layup, and it seemed like their defense was picking it up a little compared to past games. And maybe the message has slowly gotten through. It can get better. Obviously, it's not where it should be, but
Again,
there was
Rutgers
glimpses.
is not a very Rutgers is
No,
not
they're not.
an offensive
They're
team.
No, they're not.
That's the bottom
But
line.
it was nice to
We
see
have
the
this
effort.
conversation, but Tony, we have this conversation every year where it looks like they play better defensively, and it's always against a team that's not very good offensively. So
That's a valid point.
But it's also valid what Peyton said post game on the BTN broadcast that, hey, we haven't been stopping people, and we got to do better with that. So there's acknowledgement there, but it's just got to continue. So collective effort all the way around.
Are you getting snow right now, Coach?
We got snow. It stopped. Got a little bit.
Because we're getting some as well, and I didn't know if you were in that because it looks very white from the sunlight that's coming in from your back.
Yeah, we got a little bit of snow.
That's just
a little bit.
That's just because Gary hasn't been outside in a while. He's too busy watching college basketball today.
Yeah, he's got to get to South Carolina again, right? You got to go back south for a little bit.
Work on that tan, Gary.
I don't know about that, but it'd be nice to get outside.
Thanks for your time, guys. We'll see you next Friday.
All right. Take care.
Yeah, Lemansky, appreciate the super chat. Lemansky left the coaching bench 30 seconds before halftime because of bad youth reffing. Refs at halftime warned me, then teed up our other coach beginning of second half. Away game, glasses not thrown. So, okay. Apparently Lemansky's involved at some level. You ever done youth basketball, Gary?
Oh, yeah. I've done it a lot. Yeah, in fact, I coached my son's team, even in AAU. When I stopped coaching, he was a sophomore in high school. So we did the whole AAU thing. It was a blast. And then I coached my daughter too. A lot of fun.
Yeah. Get pretty intense though. RTI Threads player of the game, Peyton Sandfort, 24 points, 5 of 8 from 3, 8 rebounds, 3 assists. We'll finish off the show, folks, with a quick word from none other than HawkeyeReport.com's own Tom Kert, live from Carver Hawkeye Arena. Tom.
There's Tom.
You're looking pleasant. You're looking chipper. What was the press conference like with Fran? Was he as chipper as you look?
Yeah, and he was appreciative of the record and credited his players. Credited the players are the ones that go out and get the wins, not the coach. So I got to 127, and he was asked about that right away, and just cited being able to coach his 2 boys too, which I think is very special for him.
No doubt.
But also every other player. And he also shouted out his wife, who was in the back of the room, for the support that she gives him and being able to do this job that he's done so well. Thought it was interesting after the game, Coach Peichel, one of the all-time nicest guys. Gary, you know this about
no doubt.
Steve. He's just Steve wore a blue ribbon to support the people in Perry, Iowa, for the game today, and said he's got, he's like, I got 4 kids. I know, it hits home for him. So he wanted to support those people, but he was quick to acknowledge Fran and the record, and that, he said Iowans need to kind of realize what they got with Fran. He's one of the best coaches in America, and to come out and support the team. So he's just such a class act. I've always really admired and liked Steve Peichel, and today was another reason why. Yep,
no doubt. I'm glad to hear that.
As far as performance is concerned, Tom, Fran was a little upset toward the end of the game. He was a little upset toward the end of the first half.
Yeah.
I'm guessing the locker room was a little bit of a mixed bag, because I'm guessing there were some emotions that came down, but also the emotions of this accomplishment, which is significant. What did Fran say about his team and maybe some advancement he's seen?
Yeah, he thought that they played better. He was happy with the way that they came out in the second half after the end of the first half, where he was not happy with the performance there, giving up, having a turnover with 21 seconds left, and giving up that 3 to Mawat Mag to end the half. And that was 2 threes that they gave up. So it was just not a good end of the half for them. But he said they came out and they matched the Rutgers push at the beginning of the second half. Peyton Sandfort in particular, he thought they traded a little bit too much early on, but then started to get some stops. I thought that stretch where Owen Freeman had back to back and ones was really important for them. And then they finally started getting some stops, and then it was up to 17 again, and game over at that point. But just a good performance, I thought, for Iowa, and they made Rutgers play the style that Iowa wanted to play, as opposed to playing a game in the 60s, which is where Rutgers wants to play.
Yeah,
I agree.
Ben wants to know, Tom, was Fran asked about Patrick?
Yes, yeah, I'll give you an update on Patrick. I said he just wasn't feeling well today. Expects him back for the game on Friday night against Nebraska. 8:30 tip to that one too, guys. So get your naps in. Get your naps in, Coach.
Well,
Coach, get your nap in.
I'll have to look for a replacement because Gary's done. 8:30.
8:30 start. Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. Hey, who am I hearing talking in the background? Oh, it's somebody at Carver. I'm like, who's that talking in the background?
Yeah, there's somebody at Carver.
So I will say this. It's funny you bring up the 8:30 start, because then on that following Monday, they have a 5 p.m.
5 p.m. against on Martin Luther King Day. Yeah.
Oh, it's okay. It is Martin Luther King Day, so I can understand. At least that game is on the road, so maybe that'll be of some advantage. But I know a lot of people probably have the day off work.
Yeah.
How many Mondays do people get off work nowadays? Like every Monday is a holiday. So basically nobody works on Mondays anymore, Tom.
Yeah, it's I do. I work on Mondays when there's a game. So
9:30 p.m. South Carolina time, Gary.
I might be in bed before they tip it off.
I wouldn't be surprised. And last thing here from us, Tom, South Bend Hawkeye. I didn't hear this rumor, but he says, is there any truth to a rumor that I was holding a press conference tonight at 5 p.m. for Kert to name his next OC?
No, there will be no press conference tonight at 5 o'clock.
I had not heard that rumor, but
I had not heard that rumor either. But wow, learn
made
something new every day in the chat.
There you go.
Watch, it'll be all over the message boards and social media tonight that they saw on the Hawkeye of the Storm post game that there's a press conference tonight.
Can we put that on the VIP board, Tom?
Yes, we'll put that on the boards that it's happening. Yeah, I am the new OC.
Yeah, Tom's the new OC, and all right. Well, Tom, safe travels.
Hey, by the way, Coach Close, it was good to see a lot of former Hawkeyes here today.
Who did you see today?
Well, I saw, not a lot of guys from your era, but, I got to see Mike Gazelle today, and Mike's a really good friend, and we haven't seen each other in a while. And so it's good to see him and his two boys. And
nice.
Mike the Tree Henry was here with a Kenny Arnold shirt up in the air. Saw Kert Spurgeon, which is always good to see Kert, and just a lot of managers were here today. I think who is here? Jason Bauer was here today.
Oh, okay, Eddie. Yeah,
Eddie Bauer. Yes, as Coach Davis would call him.
They do a great job of that. I got to it last year. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Can I ask? Really neat. Was Dr. Tom there today?
No, Dr. Tom was not here.
Okay.
So,
all right.
No.
Yeah.
Well, Tom, safe travels back to the Quad Cities.
Yes, thank you.
Real quick, safe travels up the stairs.
Yes, we got a hall behind me.
When you didn't show up earlier, I thought, I actually made the comment. I said, did Tom fall down the stairs? And David
That's
said,
why somebody commented on there.
Good news that Tom didn't fall down the stairs. So
I didn't fall down the stairs. No, we had a little bit of a long post game, and with the extra coach and everything. So
Spot says congrats on the new OC job. So
thanks, Spot.
Tom, we'll plan on talking with you next week.
Run the ball, Tom. Run the ball.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. All right. David says, I can fill in for Coach Close on Friday night. I get off work at 10.
There you go.
You wait until 11:30 to have your show. Oh, absolutely, David. Just
for him, we can make that work.
Let me know. So, all right. Iowa defeating Rutgers 86-77. Want to give a final plug to a couple of our sponsors, the people that make this happen. First of all, I've mentioned Iowa Smokehouse all season. They've been sponsoring our call-in line, but making the interaction possible. We do appreciate them for that, and their new graphic here to debut this It is debuting, I should say, this month into conference play. Visit iowasmokehouse.com and use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off your total order, courtesy of Iowa Smokehouse and the show from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Better quality. Tasting is believing. You'll never need to look anywhere else. You know all the cute catchphrases, but they're all true. Go to iowasmokehouse.com and get free shipping on $50 orders. And as I mentioned earlier, be sure to check out rtithreads.com along with Cooper DeJean's website, cd3lacesup.com for original Hawkeye NIL apparel. You're supporting the Hawkeye cause. And we continue to hear more speculation that maybe more Hawkeyes will be coming back from guys that have extra years remaining. Cooper, of course, will be headed to the NFL. Kudos to him. He's going to have I think, a tremendous career, Gary. He's one of the greatest. He's one of the best football players I've seen in an Iowa uniform. That's not exaggerating.
He's a football player. There's no question about that.
He's a pretty good basketball player in his own right, too.
Yeah, I've seen a few clips of him on the basketball court.
So we'll be back on, well, I don't know about Gary, but I'll be back here. If Gary's, snoring logs, I'll be back a week from Friday, a week from yesterday, talking about Iowa and Minnesota. But I also will be back for the women. I should know this, but they play at some point. And I guess I should give our final box score recap for those that I missed earlier in the day. Again, we mentioned our player of the game was Peyton Sandfort, but also Ben Krikke with 19 and 10 today. Tony Perkins had 15, along with Owen Freeman with 15, plus 4 boards for Mr. Freeman, the freshman from Moline. And we saw some minutes, very minimal bench production. Part of that's because the bench was shorter, with Patrick McCaffery being out. We saw Brock Harding play, Price Sandfort, Evan Bronze, and Laji Dembele, I guess I should say. Sante Bowen played 18 minutes, added 4 points on the night, 2 points from Price. Would love to get his 3-point shot going, but if Peyton's making 5 and Tony's making a 3 here or there, Tony was 1 of 1, as was Josh Dix. That helps. And Patrick, of course, can make 3s. I would turn the ball over a little bit more than they'd like, Gary. 14 turnovers on the night, but Rutgers spilled it to Iowa's way 16 times. So, you won the battle, but I'm sure that will be a point of emphasis for a team that's normally very good at protecting the ball and protecting possession.
That's 2 games in a row they've been a little shaky with the ball. They've got to shore that up.
And 2 teams that do put pressure on you defensively in Rutgers and Wisconsin. But Iowa, 46% from the field, but 50% from 3. Those are numbers you can live with. 7 of 14 overall from behind the arc. You'll take those any days. Also, 21 of 24 from the free throw line. And, in spite of the low bench production from Iowa, those are good numbers, and those are usually winning numbers in this conference. So the Hawkeyes will move on to take on Minnesota next week. And they'll also play Nebraska next week. I should say they'll play Nebraska next week, Minnesota on Monday, that Martin Luther King Day. And an update for everybody, Wisconsin right now beating Nebraska 51-38 at halftime. Boy.
51 points.
Those are some points for the
they've been scoring points
for the Badgers. So anyways, Coach Mick, he says women are on Wednesday. Thank you, Mick. Appreciate that. I'll be back with you Wednesday. Football coverage, all kinds of stuff coming. Gary, appreciate the time as always. Safe travels.
Have a good rest of the weekend. You bet.
Warmer destination. Enjoy some hoops tonight and tomorrow, and we'll talk to you next time.
Sounds good, Corey. Take care.
All right, for Coach Gary Close, I'm Corey Brady here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Have a great night, folks. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.